Hello and welcome everyone to Startup Live Show. I'm your host, Ande, Lyons, startup founder, coach, podcast host, and co-host of a popular monthly pitch event right here in Boston, USA, and it's called Founders Live Boston. How's everyone doing tonight? Are you and your family staying and your loved ones staying strong and staying healthy? Oh my gosh, it's just like one day, one thing after another. It's so much to take in every day, but we're going to take a little break and we're going to have some fun tonight on the Startup Life live show. Let's take a quick moment if you want to join me and just send out a big virtual hug to all the healthcare workers and our frontline heroes. And honestly, thank you so much for your selfless acts of courage and compassion. So grateful for this group of people taking care of so many people. And I am grateful to you that you carved out time to tune in and up your founder game. We always need to keep learning and growing as founders, even when we're overwhelmed by all the daily operations of our startup. And hello, now that we're in a pandemic, the landscape has completely shifted. A whole nother new level of uncertainty has happened, but we have to remember we're founders, and founders can do hard things and figure out tough problems and find the best solutions for the new normal and this new landscape that we're dealing with right now. So the beauty of live streaming is, hey, we get to connect, we get to talk, we get to share. We may be physically distancing, but we are socially connecting here. Let everybody know where you're hailing from in the comments below. I'm hailing from Andover. Andover, Massachusetts is a little town north of Boston, but it has an R at the end. So I like to say Andover because that's the Boston accent. It's how it's done around here. And the best thing too about a live stream, I don't know if any of you out there have done Twitter chats, but the best thing about live streaming is that we get to network and we get to add wind to each other's sails. And that means I want you to be putting your business URL, your websites, your LinkedIn URLs. Let everybody know where we can follow you and find you, and do the same with each other, okay? Just add a little bit of the networking to this live stream virtual moment that we're having here. And because the theme to Startup Life Live is a problem shared is a problem halved. So we can talk amongst each other, share all our issues, whatever's going on. Let's lighten each other's load tonight, okay? Now, speaking of tonight, we have a phenomenal featured guest, and it's Dale L. Roberts, self-publishing expert, indie author, and host of a phenomenal and super popular YouTube self-publishing channel. And he is sharing his best tips, tools, and resources for founders who want to share their work or passion by publishing on Amazon. And I've said this over the last few days as I've shared this event. Self-publishing is a terrific way to increase brand awareness, provide value to customers, meet a personal goal, and add a revenue stream to your bottom line. And about 45 minutes into the show, we have a very special guest joining us. He's a tech founder, angel investor, and self-published author of 14 children's books. So please stick around so you can see who the special guest is. But now I want everyone to give a round of applause and a hearty welcome to our featured guest, the oh so amazing Dale L. Roberts. Woo!
All right. I can hear the applause everywhere. Thank you very much, Ande. Okay, Ande, I'm going to throw you a curveball here.
Oh my God.
There's two things I did slightly different today. This is the first interview I've ever done wireless headphones, so I'm gonna look like a kid. I have my mom stuck in my head, like, stop fiddling with it.
Okay.
So I've got wireless headphones in today, and the second thing is I never checked with you. Do I sound like Andre the Giant right now? Do I have a deep voice?
No.
Okay, good. Because I got a new Zoom H6, and for some reason it intermittently changes me to speaking like Andre the Giant, like, where like,
Right.
Princess
I'm gonna
Bride.
talk about self-publishing today.
Well, if you start sounding like that, we'll be sure to let you know. Hey, Jill, I want to take a moment just to say hi to some wonderful people who are hanging out with us tonight. I want to say, of course, hello to Alicia. Alicia has an amazing business called Bouquet Appetit. She does art with food like you would not believe, fruit, etc. And Dale, I mean, she was really one of the first people I reached out to when I heard I was going to have you on the show, because I said, you've got a coffee table book. You've got so much that you can put out in the world. So Alicia, hi. I am so happy to see you. And then, okay, now this is a goddess extreme, Anna Pereira. She is the founder of the Wellness Universe, which says it all right there. She is amazing. Anna, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And here is Deborah Lupian from the Poconos. You know, I always think, don't put baby in a corner when I think of the Poconos, right?
Yep.
And then over here, we have Cecilia Flores. She is the founder of Coco Verde Vegan, and she is one of my mentees. And oh my gosh, again, phenomenal food. And she's got a cookbook in the works for sure. And she and her husband have an amazing business. So everybody just say hello to each other. And then, of course, the makeup artist to the stars, we have Marielle O'Rourke. She is amazing. Everybody who comes to our town who wants to look gorgeous, they hire Marielle and her business, Marielle Artistry. So we're all here having a good time. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in and watching us. So, Dale, let's get into a little bit about your story, how you launched yourself off of payroll. That's what I'm always trying to think of. Like, who gives up payroll and benefits to do this? How did that happen for you? What's your startup story?
Yikes. It was a scary story, actually, because it goes back to about 2013. And I'm a person who's into health and fitness a lot, and especially really obsessed about it back then. And my corporate wellness coach couldn't, I was a tough nut to crack. She was like, every challenge she'd put in front of me, I'd knock it down. And eventually she's like, you do fitness so good. Like, why don't you write a book? And I'm like, ever since I was a kid, I'd always wanted to write a book. I actually went to college for journalism to become a writer. Of course, I ended up dropping out. That's another story for another day. But nonetheless, that challenge turned into something I never thought would happen. And you fast forward to about 2014, I launched my first book. My very first paycheck was $21 and I think 51 cents, something like that. And it was enough proof of concept that made me say, if I did that from working on it part-time, what could happen if I went full-time? I don't recommend anybody do what I did. I went ahead and I put in my month notice to my job, which was really nice job. And I said, all right, that's it. Peace out. I'm going to become a full-time author. Little did I know I'd spend the next 2 years grinding it out, eating ramen noodles and frozen vegetables until I could actually figure out this whole business of self-publishing. And it was when I became obsessed with it that really tipped the apple cart and got it to where I saw some success in it and started to actually make a living from it rather than $21 checks.
And so what did you have to figure out? I mean, to be able to get that revenue off of publishing, did you start with a certain genre of book, or did you first did someone help you figure this out initially?
Initially, I tried to go it alone. I believed that if I could just use Google as my friend and, YouTube videos and such, that I would be able to create it, all on my own.
Yeah.
I think the thing that really tripped the switch was when I said, that's it. I've had enough. I can't eat any more ramen noodles. I can't stand being sleepless on nights, wondering if I'm going to be able to pay my bills, wondering if I got to go back to a job because, I could go back and get the job if I wanted to. And that's all well and good. But you and I both know as soon as you've had the taste of this life, you don't want to go back to that. And that's where I was at. And I said, that's it. I'm yours. I will learn this process. So that's when I started investing in courses. And then I invested in a coach. When I invested in a good coach who walked the path in which I wanted to go, that made a huge difference. Being coachable was the game changer
Excellent.
for me.
And thank you for the shameless plug, everybody. Coaching, Startup Founder Coach. That's awesome.
She's not paying me to say this.
Get a coach. Don't go it alone.
Yep.
No, this is fascinating. I'm always fascinated by what has, compelled somebody, what called somebody to leave the quote paycheck and employee world behind and become their own, well, not their own boss, because, once you start your own business, you're everybody else's boss, but or everybody is your boss. But you know what I'm saying? Going out on your own, generating that income, eating the ramen noodles and everything. So clearly this was a passion for you. You were called to do this. And I'm so thankful that you found the courage to do it, Dale. And so before we get into any of the details, what I've been calling the ABCs of your incredible tips, tools, and resources for publishing, I'm just going to say hello to a few more favorite folks here. Hey, Eric Cox, how you doing tonight? Eric helps everybody become media prepared, Dale. So, so they command their moment when the cameras are on them, whether it's the press and it's good or not. And then I've got to tell you about Evelyn Brito. She has a documentary called The Bodega Makeover. And she goes into bodegas and helps turn them around to be more of a healthy neighborhood food stop. Just remarkable work in the world. Hello, Judith Walls. She's the founder of the New England Writers Guild and co-run the Book Launch Club on the Wellness Universe. Woohoo, nice. Judith. Well, that's great. And of course, I must say hello to my co-host of our monthly pitch event, the one and only Ande Jack. I got to tell you, I'm a lucky goddess to share the monthly pitch event for startups, Founders Live Boston, with you, AJ. Thank you for swinging by. And it was plenty for words. Oh, Flavor Noir. Oh, yeah. Yay. Or Sabrina. And anybody else here that I want to say hi to? Okay, great. They're talking amongst themselves, which makes me so happy. So let's begin. Because, from folks who want to do a cookbook to someone who has a great how-to guide, or you want to talk about something that's really important and meaningful to you, where do you begin when you want to self-publish? And why self-publishing? Let's start with that. Why self-publishing versus finding an agent and doing something more, quote, bona fide, if you want to call it that?
Boy, I could spend the next hour just kind of talking about traditional publishing versus self-publishing, but let me go ahead and just say this. We remove the barrier of entry. We remove the gatekeepers when we really equip ourselves with self-publishing versus going after a trade published deal. And the fact of the matter is, traditional publishing companies, the big five, are not really looking for new authors that are just brand new to things. The likes of people like E.L. James and Andy Weir, they really started everything out in self-publishing, and they had proof of concept before traditional publishing was ever interested in them. So that's why I say, if anybody's ever kind of finding themselves like, I want to get a traditional publishing deal, start with self-publishing. Get it to where you can understand the process of how a book is produced and how it's marketed, and then grow your audience. That way you've got more value in the eyes of the trade pub deals. And then they're coming to you, and you can be able to do the negotiating rather than they come up to you and say, take it or leave it. And you're kind of like, well, this is my only option. Well, now at least as you are self-published, you can court those traditional publishing deals and still make money in the process.
So I have a couple of questions because I've watched this for years. I actually have a book that I edited, a compilation, and found it very simple actually to upload and do the whole self-publishing thing. But what I've seen out there is, first of all, you need to have like a huge social media following. And then what I've seen with folks who do get an agent and do go with a publisher, a traditional publisher, it's almost like they do as much work as when they're self-publishing.
Yep.
So I don't understand.
It's true.
And so why is it? Maybe it's just a personal preference to want to do traditional, suits a need. But do you have to have the bajillion Twitter followers? What's the story behind the social media aspect that you need to have? Because I know with crowdfunding, you've got to have a huge social media presence and make a real big splash. What's it like for self-publishing?
You're definitely having social media presence is a smart idea because you are going to be reaching a larger audience than if you were to go without. I often hear some people like, oh, I hate Facebook, or oh, I just don't like doing Twitter, or I can't stand Instagram, or I don't want to do Pinterest, or, you name all these different platforms. And one thing I would recommend is don't be overwhelmed at all the different options. Pick one avenue and try to grow and build your brand on that. And when it starts to kind of tip over to say 1,000 engaged followers, then consider the other options rather than worrying about this, that, and the other. Again, if you've got that following there, that's going to be something that is going to help really just launch your book into the stratosphere when you get ready to self-publish it, versus if you were to just kind of go publish and pray. And oftentimes I get this with a lot of my viewers and followers that will reach out to me. I'm so frustrated. I don't understand. I published it. It's on Amazon. I haven't sold a single copy. And I'm like, okay, so what did you do? Promote it? Nothing. Okay. Do you got an email list? No. Like, oh, hey, you got to help me help you here. All right. You got to at least start doing that. And oftentimes I think a lot of people believe that they have to have the book out first. And that's not true. So one of the names I mentioned to you, Andy Weir, he wrote The Martian. It got turned into the movie with Matt Damon in it. And I think it grossed like $640 million. Any rate, Andy actually looked at trade pub deals and was like, they're never going to pick me up. And I'm just kind of paraphrasing. He's like, they'll never pick me up. So he started releasing chapter by chapter on his own website. Pretty freaking cool, right? That was very smart thinking. You could do the same thing. There's even a platform called Wattpad. Are you familiar with it at all?
No.
Okay, so Wattpad works in the same instance like what Andy was doing with his website, where people were publishing, and they still do, publish chapters of their book or portions of their book, and they start to grow a following there. So, one of the things I would say is just don't be overwhelmed at all the choices. Pick one avenue and don't let anybody dissuade you away from it. Work on it for 1 solid year, become very obsessed about it, and grow it. Now, even if you don't publish your book, you're like, Dale, don't want to do any kind of self-publishing. If you want to really build a brand, that's the way to go. There's a good reason why you've seen my presence on YouTube. I'm all in on YouTube.
Right.
That's where I've got other little things like Twitch and Facebook and such, but my main thing is YouTube, and I focused on that, and it's been 4 years now that I've been on that, and it's going to close to 30,000 subscribers, and it's for good reasons, because I became very focused on that avenue. So I'd recommend to anyone, regardless of publishing a book or not, focus on one avenue and grow it out.
And I like the fact that you just, if you get up to 1,000, you see people with amazing numbers on different platforms on social media, but really it is engaged followers, everybody. So don't think you've got to be like 20, 50,000, 100,000. No. It's really engaged with relationships. And I read a book back in the day about the guy how I sold 5 million or 1 million ebooks in 5 months. He was a business owner, very successful guy. And he came out into the world and said nobody bought his book. He just couldn't figure out why. He figured out that it wasn't what's in it for him. It's the old go start conversations with everybody else. I also really like your idea of not just sharing a chapter at a time, but perhaps audio chapters at a time. Have you seen that work?
Yes. That's a brilliant use of what you're going to do and grow your following, because you're giving these little taste tests of who you are as an author. And so, of course, naturally, when you go to release a book, people are like, of course I want the whole thing. I just already listened to like 3 chapters of this. Why wouldn't I want it?
Right. Oh, I love that. We have a question from the amazing Andy Jack from Synergy Consulting. How do authors determine a price point for their first book? Does it vary by topic or niche?
Andy, this is going to blow you away here. You're going to love this here. When it comes to determining your price point, obviously know your value. Okay, know your value. If whatever you're putting out, you're like, this is how much this costs, go for it. But if you want to get it to where it's like, that's a little ambiguous because maybe you're not as confident about yourself, and you might end up pricing your book at, say, like $2.99 when it deserves to be priced at, say, $9.99 or $14.99. So what I would say is look at your niche or the specific topic. And you can go to various platforms like the Amazons, like the Barnes and Nobles, the Apple iBooks, Kobos, all that. look at the best sellers inside your niche, and you're going to average out the price that they have for theirs. And then that is going to probably give you a bit more of an informed decision when you go to put your price point together. I always try to what I call honor the niche. Honor the niche. If people are pricing their book at $9.99 and, I don't know, self-help for dogs, do it at $9.99. And if you want to get competitive, maybe like $1 more, $1 less. You can kind of, put it right about there, but honor the niche, because if there are people right now making money in this, there's proof of concept. One of the worst things you can do is go into this niche and then bargain basement your book at 99 cents. You go ahead, shoot to the top of the charts. And what ends up happening is you start to temper the expectations of the audience. Oh, I get self-help books for dogs at 99 cents. Why would I want to spend $9.99 on it? And then you're kind of just pricing everybody out of the market, and it just ruins everything for everyone. So that's why I always say, honor the niche. Look at your niche and your topic and what are the best sellers there. Average out the price and make an informed decision.
Great question, AJ. Thank you.
Excellent.
Let's say, Vicki. Hi, Vicki. She's around the corner from you in Ohio. Vicki, are you
nice?
Cincinnati, Cleveland? I can't remember, darn it all.
One of the 3 C's.
I heard someone yesterday say to read a chapter in live video to increase engagement. Love that too.
Yes, that is brilliant. On YouTube, especially, I would highly, highly recommend it. There's a number of YouTube authors that I follow, and they've been doing that now with the at home or with me, I think it is, stay home and with me, a challenge and such. And they're going through, and what they'll do is there's 2 things. You're going to love this one, Andy. They sit down and they do writing sprints. And I'm not kidding you. It is the craziest thing. You'll see hundreds of people coming to a YouTube channel. They'll chit chat for about 5 minutes, and then they put a timer on.
Up.
Yep. And they won't say a word. They'll just click, 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 click. And then when they get done editing this, they'll go over and they'll read the chapter that they did for a writing sprint later on. And I'm like, that's brilliant. It's genius. Here's one way you can find those type of people. Look up AuthorTube. You can even do hashtag AuthorTube on YouTube, or even BookTube. That is one of the 2 ways that you can find some people that are currently doing that. And they also call them write-ins. So really, really worth it. But yes, that's a brilliant one there, Vicki.
Is write-in hyphened? I just want to make sure. I'm putting this into the comments.
Sometimes and other times it's not, I think.
So AuthorTube, hashtag BookTube for write-ins. And what was that app that you were talking about that began with W? I forgot to capture
Wattpad.
that.
Wattpad was the name of that one. Like I said, it's like a social media for writers is what it is. Social media for writers and readers, because obviously readers go there to read.
So what? WHAT? Pad?
Watt, as in like watts, like 3.1 million gigawatts.
I live with the Watt guy. I'm familiar. Oh, that's great. That is so good. So let's say, again, we got the cookbook. We've got beautiful photos. We've got recipes. Or we have the gorgeous food photos. We want to create something that we can give as gifts to our clients, or maybe sell it as a pop-up somewhere. Or we have a how-to guide, or we've written something very meaningful about our journey. Where do we start? Do cookbooks and tabletop photography books actually need editors? I imagine a written book of many chapters might need an editor. What are your thoughts around that? I just want to start what are the steps? 1, 2, 3, 4, so we can all march off and do it.
Well, the most important step is I always tell people, if it's your first book, write it. Just write it. Get it done, write it. Don't worry about making it perfect. I will promise you this, okay? There's 2 promises. I promise you that it's never going to look exactly how you have it in your head. It's not going to be like that. It's kind of like when we read a book and we go see it in the movies and like, oh, that's not as good as the book. How many times have people said that? Of course it's not as good, because your imaginations is so much better when you sit down to put your fingers to the keyboard, or maybe even voice dictate it. It's still not going to come out like exactly how you want it. So here's my next promise. I promise you, it is totally okay to write hammered garbage for your first draft. I give you permission. All right, Andy. So if you've already wrote a book, but let's just say you're brand new to this, you write yours, you have my permission. I promise you, I will not judge you any less if your first draft looks terrible, because you brought up a very good point. What we're going to want to do after we're done with the first draft is go through, clean it up with a quick edit and such, then get it over to a professional editor. And I always recommend, if you're looking for a good editor, look for referrals. Ask around in the author community for referrals, and especially those that are within your niche, because you want to make sure that if for some reason you're doing a how-to book for, say, doing a startup company. That's great. Great start right there. If we're doing a how-to book on this one, I'm not going to go hire a science fiction editor. All right? Makes no sense. Like it would probably come back and they're going to want you to be more verbose, and there's going to be some more dialogue in your book. And you're like, but there's no dialogue. No, we're going to put some dialogue here. It's going to really work. You got to make sure you've got the right editor when it's all said and done. But editing.
How much are you going to pay for editing? I know it depends on how many pages, but
it really does vary. And I hate to sound so ambiguous, but let me give you at least a ballpark range. Right. When you're looking for an editor, most editors will charge per word. Other editors will charge per project. And when they charge per word, typically, if you find a bargain basement editor, 1 cent per word. Now, a really good editor is going to be at least 5 cents to 10 cents, sometimes more, just depending on their background and how much experience that they have. Because there's some editors, I'll tell you, like I know one of my buddies, he charges easily 5 figures on a single book, like starting out like 15 grand. Like, I'm like, what? And that's right out the gate before you've even made any kind of sales. So just be aware that there are various pricing models.
For the record, for my easy breezy edited, I mean, basically I had people contribute for every chapter and I just pulled it all together. I didn't pay that much. I found somebody on Upwork and got a good deal, and then that happened. But yeah, I think it's also important to know when do you know that you've got enough content? I know there are writers out there, they think, well, should I do one more chapter? Should I do one more thing? When do you stop writing and say, okay, publish?
You brought up a good point, and I feel really bad because I have to backtrack. I said the best first step was the first draft and then editing. Prior to your first draft, a good outline. There's 2 types of writers out there. And then there's actually kind of a subsect of people that actually embody both of these. They're called Panthers and Plotters. Now, those of you that are watching, I want you to play along here with me and Andy here on this one. Panthers are those that will just sit down, and they're just cranking it on out because they're flying by the seat of their pants. Plotters have to plot everything out, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, so on and so forth, before they even sit down. Now, I'm not saying you should be one or the other. You can be a mixture of both, because I am. I like to plot it out, and then I just fly by the seat of my pants. But both of these should have an outline of some sort. So that way you have the skeletal work, and then you can put meat on the bones and move forward. Otherwise, what you'll do is spend over a year on a book on fitness and really just keep typing and keep typing and keep typing until finally I was like at 44,000 words, and I'm like, I think this is done. I was like, I think this is done. Like, it was a nightmare for my editor when I finally did hire her after the book was launched. And I learned really quick that if you want to be efficient and you want to get it to where your message is dialed in, be it nonfiction or fiction, have an outline. So that way it's a checklist as you're going through. And to make things easy for you, Andy, when you're going to plan out your next nonfiction book or your fiction book, think of an outline kind of like a table of contents. What are the readers going to expect to see or read in your book? Break it down into sub-chapters. Ask questions within each one of these chapters and then fill in those blanks. Oftentimes, I have some people that wonder, should my book be 200 pages? Should it be 300 pages? Write only what is necessary.
Or 50 pages.
50 pages is just fine. Actually, it's so funny. I had someone who just left a raging comment on my YouTube channel. You're telling people to write short books. That's not even a book. I hate to tell you, we are right now in an era of instant gratification, and sometimes people that just want to read something really quick in their commute to work or when they're staying at home and they don't want to be committed to a full novel. There are some that love to read novel-length books, and some of them that like to read something in between. So when you're writing, write with the reader in mind. What do they enjoy most? And then start to work your way backwards from there. Put an outline together, fill it up, and then you should hopefully be able to get it to where it delivers enough value and fulfills their expectations.
Yep. Love, love, love that advice. So folks, you're seeing how there's this methodology to move you forward. So you can go, okay, got that done. I've got that done. Now I'm done. I'm going to get my editor. I just want to throw up here, Judith Walls. She says, I charge per project. Upwork is a great site. So everybody get Judith's information there for editing. And I imagine the table of contents idea. I mean, I just love that, something fierce. And certainly for a cookbook, if you're trying to, because, I work with a lot of food founders, and being able to put together something that, of course, maybe be broken down, could be broken down by theme, or it could be broken down by appetizer, main dish, dessert type of a theme. That has to help, right? So now you've got the editor comes back. What about artwork? How do you get a book cover? How do you get, how sometimes you have that nice little design at the top of each chapter, and little elements, things like that. How do we do that?
So we've done the editor. We've gone through and fixed everything that we can. And this is prior to the final draft in what we do in bringing a proofreader. You're going in such a great logical order. I love this. So when it comes to actually getting it formatted, that's what I typically cover when I say formatting. The interior and the exterior, getting it to where everything is on brand, on point, looking professional, not like you just whipped it together in 2 seconds on Notepad and threw it up over on Amazon KDP. We want to make sure this looks wonderful. There are a couple methodologies. You can DIY, and you can watch my YouTube channel, and I'll show you how to do those type of things. Or one of my preferred ways of doing things is hire a professional. Much like you hired an editor, hire out a formatter. Find someone who will do some interior formatting. Look at their portfolio and some examples of what they've done before you invested in here. Can I share you an example?
Yes.
Let me share an example. It's probably one of my favorite ones to share. World famous magician and creativity expert. His name's Adam Wilbur. Adam, very fascinating guy. Look him up once when you're done here. I'm going to bring this up here. He actually was on Penn and Teller's Fool Us. He'd reached out to me on a consult for his book, and this is probably the best example of someone who hired a formatter. And when you open it up, you'll see literally creativity dripping off the pages. Now, should you make your book like this every single time? No. But what a perfect picture for me to open to flip it over, by the way.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Very creative for sure. It's a beautiful workbook. But this goes to show that in your mind, as you're kind of writing out your book, maybe it's a fiction book, so you may not need a bunch of like really nice format like Adam did here. But at least you can probably get an idea of what your niche is probably typically formatting it like, kind of like the really neat looking regalish Victorian feel to it. But what I would say is reach out to an interior formatter, know what you have in mind for your interior, and try to pitch that to them and see if they can give you a sample. I see too many people that are hiring professionals all out. They're like, here's a couple $1,000, go ahead and fix it. And they get it back, they're like, I don't understand, this is garbage. Like, what? Take them a test drive. Same thing works for a book editor, by the way. Test drive them.
Yeah, people in the tech industry, it's what we do to test people out, have them do just a little something, a little code, a little something, test them out, same thing. I love that advice. What about the people who, are in a really, really skinny budget? Can they hop onto Fiverr? Can they get for just the artwork?
Absolutely. And by the way, the same thing's going to work for the cover too. Hire out. In fact, if you had to choose one or the other, you're like, I've only got enough for doing interior or exterior. I can't do both. Get a book cover designer. You will thank me later. It is honestly, I can't tell you how many times I've said this, but it holds true. This is not just some random idiom. This actually applies to the publishing business. People judge a book by its cover. And if your cover is wrecked and it looks really hit, no one's going to buy it. So hire a professional, someone who knows how to do it. So yeah, you can go to places like Fiverr. You can go to places like Upwork. There are even some book cover design sites like 99 Designs, I think is one.
Yeah, they do a nice job.
Good friends of mine with the Urban Writers, they've done some covers for me as well. There's so many. Again, referrals is the name of the game. But again, if you're finding yourself cash strapped, try to allocate your funds towards the end of doing the exterior, because in the interior, you can at least, maybe you won't have a vibrant layout like what Adam has on his, but you can at least get some basic ones. I had a video where I talked about 10 great ebook creators. I stand by that one. And it wasn't like I was, sponsored and I'm going to specifically say these ones. No, I gave 10, and actually some of them are for free and I got nothing for saying it. So that's what I would recommend is.
And especially if this is your first book. And hey, folks, you may want to do a test run on a first book before you bring out your big Gone with the Wind book.
Right.
And just get a test run, find out what is it like to go through this process, and know that this is, like when you pour up pancakes, you always throw out the first one. Maybe that's what you're doing and figuring out and getting your sea legs for self-publishing. And that way you're not spending a fortune on a piece that's you're just new to it all. And it also gets you prepared, because you writers and anybody who has that level of creativity, what you're going to bring is you're going to continue bringing it, and you're going to hold it up like Joanna of Chip and Joanna probably does with one of her first cookbooks, and now, everything's all polished and beautiful. Try it out a few times. And I'm a huge fan of the skinny budget for, getting something out and not letting that hold you back. So Ande has a great comment right here. Great advice, Dale. My co-founder and I have been working on a book for the past 2 years. I think this is the year we'll finally actually get it done. What do you say to that?
Here, I'm going to have a conversation here with Ande. Ande, come on, man. It's been 2 years now. That book, here's something, all joking aside, here's something that I want to say very seriously. There is somebody somewhere in the world that is just absolutely needing your publication right now. They need it now more than ever. And by you keeping it for the past 2 years, you've robbed them of the right to actually be able to learn and get to grow from who you are and your creative, nature. So I would just implore you, stop waiting, start doing. This goes for everybody out there. Let me share a story. Is it okay if I go on a little tangent here?
Absolutely.
Hopefully I don't get all emotional on you guys here.
We'll get ready.
I did the fitness writing, and I've published over 40 books in the fitness niche. And it was probably about partway into publishing those that I got this review one time, and I take my reviews very seriously. And this review came from a lady, said, it was 2 stars, and said, this was the wrong type of book for me. I didn't find any use out of it. So I commented back, and I'm always open. I'm receptive to constructive feedback. So I said, I'm really sorry to hear that. What were you looking for? I would be happy to address any concerns you have. Please drop me a line, and I'll even send you a refund. I'll be darned. You say refund to somebody, they're all over it. And she gets a hold of me through email, and she told me her whole story. She was morbidly obese, disabled, having to take care of her daughter, living in her parents' house, had no income whatsoever. And it was just, I was like, wow. So she was looking for something that would get her back up on her feet, that would get her to lose her weight, that would get her to where she was feeling so much better about herself because she felt so down. She said, I used to be a size 2, but now there's no way I'd ever fit into something like this. And I wanted to help her. I was like, look, I'm not asking you to change the review. Please leave the review up. Do not touch it. But let me recommend a different publication to you that's more appropriate for your level. And I went ahead, gifted it to her automatically. And within a few weeks, she got back to me, had already started losing weight. She got her confidence back. She said she was actually able to keep up with her daughter at one point. And I was like, that right there. Can you imagine if I sat and I didn't address that concern and I didn't get that feedback and I didn't publish that book? this poor lady would have been sitting here waiting for me, waiting for some type of solution. And you may be thinking to yourself, man, my voice doesn't make any difference. Trust me, there's something for everyone. Okay, and here we go. I'm going to take it off the serious path, and we're going to go ahead and put it on the less serious path. This will tell you how serious this is. Whoever's watching this, you're going to probably say, no one cares about my message. There's already books out about it. Okay, this woman had a choice before to look for something different, but she chose mine. For whatever reason, she chose mine, and she resonated well with it. Now, let's go ahead and look at where we're going to go off the rails for just a second. There are niches out there. You ready for this one? I'm going to give you 4 initials, ABDL. Take a guess on what that stands for. Adult baby diaper lover. Yes, ABDL is a huge, huge niche full of rabid fans. And you would think to yourself, a lot of people are laughing, and there's probably a choice few saying, well, that's not funny. ABDL, I get into that. That's the thing. There's something for everybody. Like, I used to laugh at the werebear shapeshifter romance books. What?
Come on.
It's a werebear. And there's also were-dragons, were-tigers, were-dinosaurs. What? People consume this content. So if you find yourself stifling what's inside you, I just implore you, you may not have the same story as what I do, but your specific type of literature you're going to put out into the world is going to be such a unique message that it's going to affect someone somewhere. It's going to hit somebody at just the right time, make them feel good, or suspend their disbelief, even if it's ABDL or Werebear Shapeshifter Romance. And not to make light of these things, they are fantastic. There's somebody out there that's
I'll never forget, Andy Grant, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago, did a book, 200 Positive Affirmations. I mean, not even a fancy title, okay? Now, how many books on affirmations are out there? Bajillions of them, and yet his sold like crazy. So, I mean, I always tell everybody, if you're worried about, it's all been done before, walk down the bread aisle at the grocery store.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Well put. I'm going to take that, by the way, Andy. I love that analogy.
Okay, so I just also wanted to bring up one of my dearest friends in the whole wide world, Blair Glazer, has a great question. Hi, Blair. And she says, hey, Dale, I know this is going a little back in the convo, but what made you choose YouTube as your platform? What do you recommend for those writers who are not as confident on camera? Great question, Blair Dacious. Blair.
So Blair, fantastic. Okay. Two very good questions. The reason why I chose YouTube was I actually got interviewed in early January 2016 on a YouTube channel. At that time, I was thinking about doing YouTube just because who wasn't at that time? But after doing that interview, I was getting inundated with questions on how I became successful in self-publishing. So rather than answering every single email, I thought, let me put together a video and I'll just put it up on YouTube. That's literally all I was doing that for. Little did I know 4 years later that everything I've done on YouTube has eclipsed all of the work that I did as a fitness author. And I wouldn't change anything. I love it. What would I recommend for those writers who are not as confident on camera? Don't get on camera. Don't get on camera. It's just as simple as this. A good friend of mine.
Spotify, right?
Yeah, Spotify. Podcasts are fantastic. But here's a great one for me to suggest to you is Anne Manera. That last name spelled Manera. Anne wasn't too comfortable with being on camera. She is a coloring book artist. And she will sit down and she puts her mobile device on a little rack above her table where she will do her drawings or even color in those things. She has a rabid following on Facebook. People will show up in droves to listen to her talk and draw and such. So Blair, what I would say is if you're confident on camera, either A, get on camera and just be prepared to feel uncomfortable at first. I know I wasn't very comfortable at first in front of a camera, but after so many times, you just kind of used to it. But if you're not confident, I'd say the very first step forward would be just Maybe even have like a PowerPoint presentation, you talk over top of it, or you even just show the book and you just read through it. There's so many ways you can kind of crack this nut open. I would say the best step forward is to start your YouTube channel, know the direction that you want to go and your audience you want to serve, and just start.
And use images, Blair, that you talk over so that book and be talking, because I know you have a delicious voice and you have wonderful ways with words. And that's also something you can get clips of and then share on Facebook with folks as well, because I know you have a huge Facebook following. People love Blair on Facebook. Everybody who's on Facebook tonight, follow Blair Glazer there. Let me just say hi to a few more people.
Awesome.
Let's see. I just saw Mark go by. Hello, Mark. Mwah, 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 mwah. Master carpenter. Talk about creativity. You could do a wonderful tabletop just on the amazing work you've done in the world, Mark. And we, of course, we have our guest Pradeep is in the green room, everybody. I can't wait to introduce you to this guy. And of course, AJ, I know you're going to get going. You're going to bring it to the world, you and Riaz. They need what you have to say. I can tell you from personal experience, absolutely. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is, before we get into like the typical mistakes people make, is I'd love to know more about titles. Like, this is just for any of my shows, my podcast, I get so hung up on titles. How do someone's written a beautiful book, but then they're like, oh, what am I going to call it? How do you figure that part out?
Ooh, man. For fiction, we're just going to kind of put this one on the shelf.
Okay.
Because fiction is just a little bit more problematic, because you just got to kind of,
especially if there are werebears involved.
Right. When werebears are involved, you're going to probably have to call it like Call of the Wild Werebear Shapeshifter. I don't know. But when it comes to nonfiction, it's going to come down to, what is your ideal reader's problem, and how do you have that solution? Right. And what's the most succinct way of saying that? I see far too many times that people, this makes sense. You go and you find a keyword that is trending and is doing really good, say on the Amazon platform, and then you try to incorporate it into your title, your subtitle, because obviously it's going to aid in discoverability. But sometimes they do it at the detriment of their title, because the Amazon algorithm, and any algorithm, starts out pretty basic, but the more that people use it, it starts to learn behaviors and it starts to become much more sophisticated. And so Google's done this more recently, to where you try to keyword stuff your website, it will suppress your listings. The same thing's going to happen across platforms like the Amazons and the Barnes and Nobles of the world. You could try to stuff your keywords over into your title. Just think about your customer's problem and how you have that solution, and then build a title that can marry the two together so it grabs someone's attention who's looking for a solution to their problem, and you've got it.
I love that. Okay, so we have learned that we pull together our content with a table of content type of structure now, and then we get the artwork done, exterior and interior. Then we have the editor who's also taking care of all the parts and pieces inside to make sure it's looking good. Then we have to get it laid out for digital, to come and do some magic wand, Harry Potter stuff to make it so that it can be read on a e-reader.
So I get both ebook and print book done all at once, because I want to get the ebook interior almost the same as you would a print interior. There's two different types of layouts, and without nerding out, it's called fixed layout or reflowable content. And reflowable means that they'll be able to go on a mobile device and they can make it bigger, they can make it smaller. Like, so if they want their text larger, they can make it larger. If they want it smaller, they can make it smaller. Whereas with a fixed layout, that would be like a PDF where you can zoom in, but otherwise it starts to degrade the quality and such. So I would recommend that when you're going to do your interior formatting, get the print, get the ebook done at the same time.
Excellent. And again, budget-wise, for having someone do that, the magic wand thing. the coding, whatever it is that they have to do
Right.
to make it structured so that, and folks, if you've had a favorite book that you might have read, because I'm old, so like maybe back in the 80s, and then you find it for your Kindle and you can see all these things hanging off the left and the right, because it really was never made, it was made for print. You have to have somebody or some software package take that and put it into a correct format so that when people are reading it, they can link, they can do all sorts of fun things. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And,
Okay.
you don't have to break the bank on this one. Interior formatter, some people can do it themselves. If you're getting a little bit more intricate, like an Adam here, you have to hire out. Interior formatting can cost as little as under $100 to as much as, say, a couple grand, just depending on how in-depth and intricate it is. If it's very basic, super simple layout, no bells and whistles, you can probably do it yourself.
And then we have everything pulled together. And as you said, you're ready for ebook and print. Then how do you become an Amazon? How do you get published on Amazon? And I'm sure you have a video for this on your YouTube, but just briefly for our viewers, how does that work?
Oddly enough, I think it was not even just an hour ago, I just had a video launch about how to publish on KDP in less than 10 minutes. I actually did it in 5 minutes.
I was like,
seconds.
10 minutes? Seriously?
Yeah. If you go in there, it's me jibber jabbing, and then 5 minutes, 18 seconds of it is actually doing ebook and print book at the same time. Here's what I'd recommend. And rather than shamelessly plugging myself, Amazon is the online juggernaut. They are the elephant in the room. Why you would want to go there is because it has a wider reach. It has an audience. You're able to leverage the Amazon platform to build your audience much more bigger and bring in more revenue and open them up to other avenues, be it if you're on YouTube, on Facebook, LinkedIn, it doesn't matter. But to start, really honestly, you can go over to my channel and watch how to do it, or even easier yet, Amazon wants to equip you with all the right tools. And there's actually a program called Amazon KDP Jumpstart. That stands for Kindle Direct Publishing. So if anybody's like, I don't really know where to go, Amazon KDP Jumpstart. It's a free course. They walk you through everything. They show you how to format the interiors. They show you how to kind of do a book cover. It is handheld, and there's no upsell. They just want you to publish more content. That's all they want. They really want to make some money, and the only way they can do it is equip you with all the right tools.
Just want to say hi to a new friend online. Hi, Alex.
On Periscope.
Isn't that great? Woo-hoo!
Yeah.
That's what we love about StreamYard. YouTube, Periscope, Twitch, and of course here on Facebook. Hey, No Falls, so good to see you. Great question. Is your revenue more on print or ebooks?
Me personally, I can tell you that right now, a vast majority of my revenue is derived from print books. But globally speaking, it is pretty much the same. Vast majority, and I'm sorry I have to be anecdotal, I won't have a source to send you to because I have nothing ready for this particular one, but I'm sure people can Google this up. A vast majority of global publication profits are derived from print as far as hardcover and paperback goes. Ebook, though, unit for unit outsells any print. It just, unfortunately, it's cheaper. So that means that there's not as much of a profit as, say, what you get from print altogether. But don't sleep on one other avenue. We haven't even tapped onto it. Unfortunately, we'd have to do a whole new interview on this one. Audiobooks. Audiobooks is absolutely on the rise. If you are going to publish a book, might I recommend do an audiobook? You will thank me later. And you'll say, Dale, I need to take you out for a cup of coffee, which, by the way, I don't drink coffee, so it would be super cheap for you at that point. Get the audiobook into your back catalog if you don't currently have it now. And I'm talking to you, Andy.
Yeah. And also, I want to talk just a little bit about, back in the day, if you ordered books, you got them by the case and they hung out at your home and then you never got rid of them. It's print on demand now for published authors. Yeah. So if someone orders a hardback, great, or a paperback, great, it just gets printed and out it goes. Is that how it works? Uh-oh, frozen.
You can
Oh,
still order wholesale books. So for some reason you want to get a pallet full of books, you can still do that and fulfill your own orders if you wish to. But now we're in the age of print on demand, meaning that you can upload to a platform like, say, Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing. It doesn't cost you a dime.
Mm-hmm.
The customer takes on the burden of the print costs, and you get whatever is beyond whatever you have marked it up for retail costs. So you don't have to get a pallet full of books. But conversely speaking, great that I have this in the background. Good friend of mine, John Celestri, he is a legendary animator. He did the He-Man cartoon. He did Dragon's Lair arcade, but he fulfilled that himself. Did all that himself.
Wow.
He did it over through a Kickstarter campaign, an Indiegogo campaign. He went ahead, purchased all those books with the crowdfunding that he had, and he fulfilled it himself. Why? Well, he keeps all the profit. There's no Amazon in the middle going, let me have some of your money. No, he fulfilled his order,
Oh my gosh.
got it all sent to him, and he kept everything from it.
Wow. Wow. See, there's so many tricks to the trade, everybody. And I'm going to have Dale's links for everything. And as I said, in the Startup Life live show, we are all about adding wind to each other's sails. So we are going to support you 100%. But let's bring in one of my favorite people here in the Boston area. He is a smarty pants tech founder. He is, of course, a published author. He's an investor, and he's just well known in the startup community and the tech community here in Boston. Pradeep, how are you?
Oh, I'm very well. How are you guys?
So great. Let me just get the right banner on for you so people can figure out how to follow Pradeep and learn more about Pradeep. Anybody in the audience, if you know Pradeep, be sure to say hello and hi. So Pradeep, I had to bring you on, and I told Dale I just had to bring you on because founders need to have a hobby or something else that enriches their life. And I remember when you showed Chet and I your incredible photos, and then the fact that you took these photos and turned them into children's books. Please tell everybody how you came up with this idea and how's it been working for you?
Well, I think the idea came about because I had a slew of photographs that I couldn't monetize in any other manner. But more importantly, as an investor who was interested in furthering education, particularly recognizing that when you really want to change culture, you got to do it very low down at the children's level before it percolates upwards and becomes, a concept, if you will. So not that we're only investing in that, but the children's education piece was very interesting to me. So all of this came about as a confluence of an interest in monetizing some pictures, but more importantly, conveying some important concepts to children. And for that, we relied on something called the social emotional learning framework pushed out by Cassell.org. So each of the books that we have out currently have essentially rare animals or endangered animals, talks a little bit about them, but weaves in a story that actually tells you or conveys to the child some sort of a social emotional learning concept via the story.
I love that. And, to see these beautiful pictures of these beautiful animals that you have taken, and photography being a passion of yours and doing that, but to turn them into books, did you find it difficult? I mean, we've got, massive freaking action solves everything right here with Dale. I love that t-shirt, Dale, sharing wonderful step-by-step, but how did you figure it out? Did you get on that Amazon KDP Jumpstart?
Well, so initially we tried a number of platforms. I think the hope wasn't just to push out another book, but to do something truly multimedia and interactive. Mm-hmm. So we tried a number of platforms, including one called Kodobi, which had or promised all sorts of things that was just too difficult to pull together. And then in that exploration, I found KDP and another thing called Kobo, which I think Dale talked about earlier. And those were much simpler. They do not do everything that I would have liked multimedia-wise, but it does enough to make the book nice and readable, and it's relatively easy to use and publish. So it took us just a little bit of time to explore those platforms, try the first book. We did it, I think the first book took about a month and a half, which included, processing the pictures, trying to write a decent story, looking through the platforms and making sure that they actually worked and allowed us to put the pictures in. And then when we had to do the print book, we had to do a whole bunch of sizing things. And I think Amazon surprised us with okay, it has to be at least 24 pages before we'll give you a print version. So then we went and rewrote the book and expanded it. So that first book took about, I don't know, a month and a half, I think. But after that, the latest book, which is number 14, the pictures and the taking of the pictures aside, from start to finish, concept to actual full books in store, took probably about 3-ish days. And most of that effort was me trying to pull a story together, after which putting into the platform and then pushing out YouTube videos about the whole book. All of that was literally a half day's worth of work.
Brilliant.
Nice. And how did you come up with pricing? Because Dale was telling us, look at your niche, see what people are charging. How did you come up with your price for the children's book?
I did sort of take a look through a bunch of similar books to see if I could determine a niche or a sort of concept kind of pricing, if you will. But eventually what we decided on was the lowest possible price that would give us some sort of a profit margin after Amazon took its cut. And we didn't want to sort of take the value out of the book by giving it away literally for free. Actually, they are kind of free. If you just went to YouTube, you'd see the full book. But those are teasers. I'm hoping that will.
I mean, Dale, he must have been hearing you intuitively.
Yes,
I probably was.
So you set up a YouTube.
I'm channeling my hair like Dale soon, and
yes.
So how did you know to set up your YouTube channel?
So we've been we're YouTube. I won't call us veterans, but we've been doing YouTube for a number of marketing clients that we have. And we have one client who's got, I don't know, several million followers and videos that regularly rack up million views and things like that. And we'd been sort of guiding them and helping them. They shoot their own videos, but every time they shot a video, we said, okay, why don't you standardize a few things? Why don't you make this a little bit more emotional, et cetera, et cetera. And that gave us a lot of, food for thought when we decided to do this for my book.
Right.
So.
Great. Oh my gosh. Well, Pradeep, thank you so much for coming on. You got a few people saying hi here. AJ said hello. Tom Maloney. Hi, Tom. And everyone else. I really wanted the viewers to see, a tech founder who has this other wonderful outlet, because a lot of times that's another thing about self-publishing. It can be a really important creative outlet when you're dealing with the regular stress of life. And a beautiful way to surprise everybody, as you did us, by going, oh, hey, and I do children's books. What? So I am so grateful you came on. I'm going to pop you out of the room, but I'm going to have Pradeep's, all his info in the show notes, everybody. So you can follow this man and see how extraordinary he is in the world. And certainly in our neck of the woods here in Boston, he's loved everywhere.
That's a lot of pressure, but thank you very much for having me on.
Oh, no, thank you for being willing to come on and share your stories and your story, Pradeep, because it's wonderful. Do you have a question, Dale?
Yeah, I got a question for Pradeep. By the way, hey, Pradeep, I've just been quietly sitting here listening and such. May I ask, where can we find your book?
Yes, you can find the books by Googling Novus Flores Books. It'll land you on our website, on the YouTube channel, on Amazon, as well as on Kobo. Short of that, you could Google my name directly and say children's books, and I'm sure I'll come up. Or go directly to Amazon or Kobo or YouTube. And
I put the Kobo link into the comments here, and so people can click on that as well. Oh, great question!
Fantastic.
I'll have links, everybody, for that. And
I don't know if it's unique or maybe Dale has done it himself, but Overdrive actually publishes off of Kobo into library networks.
Libraries.
So we had a little bit of success doing that, and we're now on the Minuteman Library Network as well.
Look into Biblioteca. That's another one for you to take a look at for library distribution. It's fantastic. There's so many library distributors that you can look into. Fantastic. I can talk your head off about this.
Isn't that exciting, though? I just thank you for being our representative for everybody. Well, Pradeep did it. I can do it. So I'm excited to see, and folks watching, I'm excited. Ping us. Let us know what you've done, what you're pulling together. And really, but when you get it launched or get it up there, we can all go and share it worldwide in all of our channels and social media places and spaces. to add some wind to your author sales. Okay. Thank you, Pradeep. Thanks for making the effort to come up tonight. It's so wonderful. So delicious to see you. Yay, Dale. Thank you. It was so much fun to bring somebody in and have an opportunity to share. Hey, Judith, thank you for tuning in with us tonight. Thank you so much, Dale, for your generosity of your information, for Pradeep for sharing your ideas, and for Ande for, thank you so much, Judith Ann. That's awesome. So as we wrap up, Dale, any last comments for those who have been sitting on the fence or who really are like, oh, that is a good idea, but I don't know if I can do it. What votes of confidence can you give them to move forward, keep taking those steps?
It all just takes one step at a time. You're not going to be able to climb Mount Everest by one step. Just know that it's going to take several steps. The only way to get started on that journey is just to do one step. And I think we've cut it out for them pretty well so far. Yeah. And if you need more encouragement, I'm here for you. That's really what it comes down to.
Absolutely. I mean, we took you through the pathway of how to get there, and then right to the point of being an author on Amazon, setting up like you do everywhere else. You set up your author page, and you've got your book up there. You've got it priced, and there's going to be all sorts of. And Dale will go deeper into marketing on his channel. So if you need any help marketing your book, where are they going to go, Dale?
If you want to come over to the main hub, selfpublishingwithdale.com. You go to selfpublishingwithdale.com. You'll be able to see where my YouTube channel's at, my blog. I have a full blog that's going, which, by the way, Ande, we need to talk. Guest blog post.
Me, right?
Fantastic to have you on. You can see where I'm a podcast, everything. So the easiest way, selfpublishingwithdale.com, and you'll find me. May I ask a favor? Just one favor? It won't be a view. Actually, I'm going to ask of the viewers here, okay? And especially those who are on YouTube right now. You're watching this right now. We need to have a thumbs up party. Hit that thumbs up so that way it is turned blue. And also, if anybody has followed me from my channel and my following, I want you guys to do me a favor. If you made it this far in the video, you're going to drop 5 banana emojis and a smiley face inside the comments. So let people, you got to let Ande know where you're coming from. So 5 bananas, 1 happy face.
I love them marching orders. That's wonderful. Deborah Oakland came by to say hi. Deborah, love you. And also we have Alicia said, thank you so much. I'm telling you, Alicia, you got the book in you, darling. I know this to be true. Dale, I'm going to send you some pictures of Alicia's work in the world. Amazing.
That's awesome.
Goddess Blair, Dacious Blair. So happy you tuned in tonight. AJ, I agree 100%. Eric Cox needs to write his book too. ASAP, Command Your Moment. This is wonderful. I'm just going to make some closing comments, Dale, and I'm going to come back to you for a little bit of a wrap up. I am truly grateful, as I said earlier, for the fact that you carved out time either live here tonight and had some good conversations with each other, or you're watching this on the replay. Thank you for your commitment to your startup and to improving and upping your game as a founder or as who you be in the world. I'm confident, in fact, that you found something tonight that is going to leverage whatever you're doing and make your journey easier in doing it. If you have any questions for me or for Dale, please pop them in the comment or shoot us an email. All the links will be in the show notes on my YouTube channel. And to receive an alert whenever I post a new video, please click the subscribe button and click on the bell. Thank you, because that'll give you a notification every time I put up a new video. Also, please subscribe to my newsletter, Let's Stick Together. It takes a village to raise a business. I shoot this newsletter out once a month, and it's chock full of just what you need to keep you going. Inspiration and aspiration, right? Do you need a pitch deck reviewed? I've raised millions from VCs, thousands from angels, and I'm a co-host of a monthly pitch event here in Boston, so I can make sure your deck is ready for investors or your next pitch event. Is your business suffering from a variety of ailments? I mean, please do not go it alone. Dale started this whole conversation off with how he brought in a coach to help him walk through the process. Let me help you walk through the process. Get in for an Andy-licious minute or two, whatever works for you. Let's get you on the books, 15, 30 minutes, an hour. I promise you, I can quickly discern whatever's going on and help restore you and your business to healthy condition. All right, so right now we're recording live on Tuesday, April 21st, 1 week from tonight, because this is where I am every Tuesday night. April 28th at 7 p.m., we're chatting with the founder of the Lonely Entrepreneur platform, Michael Dermer. And we're going to be talking about how to negotiate with vendors and team members, what bills to pay. It's all about preserving cash while you're trying to keep your business afloat. Michael has been through it, 2008. He's got great stories about how his business almost crashed and was done. So we're going to learn a lot from him, especially what bills to pay and who and how to negotiate. Be sure to join my meetup group as Startup Life Live to receive alerts about my next events. And hey, just always reach out, say hello. You know where to find me. I'm always hanging out on Twitter and everywhere else at Ande Lyons. Yes, Alicia wants to know, do you have an IG? Yes, at self-pub with Dale, Alicia. Okay, as his little banner goes by, you're going to see it down there. So good. Yes, Deb says she's followed Dale for quite some time. Excellent
thank you,
info.
Deborah.
Yay. And Eric is like, wow. Yeah, I think you're right. I'm going to have to write that book. And Deborah with the purple hearts. We love that. Oh, that's great. So everyone, thank you for tuning in. Dale, any last thoughts? Self-publishing. What have you got to say?
You've been fantastic. You've gave me quite a bit of time here today. So thank you very much for having me here.
Oh, thank you. And everyone, I'm here cheering you on. And I want you to remember to stay strong, stay focused. And right now during this pandemic, stay healthy and stay home. And remember, you're a founder. You've got this. Cheers, everyone. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. See you next week.